I had to be an activist. Older women's stories of advocacy and activism across a lifespan. This work was conducted by members of the Division 35 Committee for Women and Aging. So when we conducted this study and we came up with a study, we really wanted to give a platform for the voices of older women advocates and activists, such as the raging grannies that are being shown on the screen here. We wanted to recognize the contributions of older generations of feminist activists, and we wanted to do that by collecting stories of their work and their experiences. So we had a total of 10 people participate in 5 different individual or group story circles. They ranged in age from 50 to 78 years old, and they were all self-described as straight, white, and had post-secondary education. The prompt we gave them was tell a personal story about a time when you helped or spoke on behalf of others. And then we included some follow-up questions about motivations and opportunities. For our analysis, we did a reflexive thematic analysis. We did this as a group. So the committee familiarized ourselves with the data, coded the data, identified patterns, and defined our themes all together. So we had a total of 6 themes, and I'm just going to walk you through them each briefly. So for the first 2 themes, I'm going to talk about them together because this quote is really a good example of both. So power and visibility in a group, as well as connection as a group. This quote says, "Some of what motivates me is actually somewhat selfish. It's just to help assuage the feelings of loneliness when you see, oh my God, and another mass shooting, why don't they do anything? But I mean, just feeling so isolated. Unless you've got a group that you can work with you and know that you're not the only one that feels this way. You're not the only one, and we can take action together. That's important. Yeah, like more powerful as a group than we are as a single." So as this woman was describing, they feel more visible, more powerful acting as a group, but also they feel connected to each other. These women talked about having additional resources and support for life events as well as political events, like she mentioned in this quote here, where they feel helpless if they didn't have that group to work with them. The next theme is this sense of responsibility. So the quote says, "I think that some of the grannies feel a real responsibility because we have that freedom. We don't have to worry about what an employer is going to think. But some of the grannies really feel a strong responsibility that at this stage in our lives." So for them, they can do this work because they have the flexibility of not losing their job or things like that come with being retired for some of these women. And that wasn't true of all of the women. Some of the women were younger and was still working full time. And another quote, "I just felt and still feel that I have to do something to help my heart not hurt." This next theme, downplaying their advocacy activist work. So as this quote says, "I don't really think of myself as an activist, but I've done quite a variety of, just whatever comes my way that I can participate in." And this was true of many of the women. They talk about all of these different times and ways that they've advocated on behalf of someone else as in addition to some activist work, but they didn't see it as a part of their own identity, at least not for some of the groups like the Raging Grannies. Some of the younger women did see it. So this new group called the New Suffragettes in Chattanooga, Tennessee, they were more likely to claim this identity. And then also a lifelong commitment to advocacy and activism. As this quote says, "I started out working with disability groups because I'm blind. Everything is done in a visual medium. So, I grew up in a society that basically excluded me from everything. So I had to be an activist or I was going to be thrown away like they did to people with disabilities throughout history." So many women talked about this being a life habit and something that they did across their entire lifespan. But for this particular woman, she's like, this wasn't even an option for me. I had to do it or I wasn't going to get what I needed. And this last theme, prioritizing positive activism. The quote says, "Just going down to someplace like farmer's market and singing on the corner, and you're exposing people who don't know about Raging Granny, and that, like listening to us, people are loving it, laughing. We gather a crowd, and it's not offensive, I don't think, because we try to do it with a little bit of humor." So some women had noted not wanting to be offensive and wanting to not push people away with the way that they engage in their activism. So just some thoughts on some of the data that we found, and you could watch some Raging Grannies of Madison. We did have a participant or two from this group. So older women are valuable advocates in their communities, but their work may not always be recognized or valued by themselves and or others. And older women and their accomplishments may be perceived as being invisible because of the double jeopardy of being both a woman and older. And because of this invisibility, their contributions may be downplayed. So in the future, we are continuing to recruit participants. We want to recruit a more broad group of participants of everyday advocates and activists, maybe ones that aren't in these big groups like Raging Grannies, but people who are engaging in advocacy in their everyday lives. And we also want to increase the diversity of the sample. So we've specifically been trying to recruit older women advocates that represent a variety of races and ethnicities and sexual orientations and such. And then in the future, we're hoping to look a little bit more into intergenerational transmission of advocacy and activist values. So if this sounds like something that you would like to get involved with, we would love to have additional collaborators. So please reach out to myself, Dr. Ruth Walker, at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, or Dr. Lisa Hollis-Sawyer. She's at Northeastern Illinois University. We would love to hear from you and get in contact.